Welcome to a new part of the Terra Moon trilogy. In each part, I show you 3 looks with each one different Terra Moon eyeshadow. I have in total 24 different Terra Moon Cosmetics eyeshadow. 24? Yeah, 24. So this is, I don't know what part it is, but in total you will get 8 parts. And if you've never seen a video like this, I have these with Cleona, with Glominatrix, Terra Moon. I have a palette roulette coming very soon. Is it already live? No, I think it will go live in 2 weeks or so. But what I do is before each look, I have a little wheel of fortune. I spin the wheel. The wheel tells me what shade I'm going to use. I then do some swatches, read the description, describe what I see, give you a close-up shot, and then I decide what palette to use and create a look with it that makes that chosen shade the center of attention. So if you like that concept, you know what you have to do. Give it a like, thumbs up, the whole shit, follow me, blah blah blah. I try to incorporate this now in the beginning of a video because I feel like at the end nobody's watching anymore. But without any further rambling, let's head into the looks. The most exciting time of this video is always the wheel spinning, and today we get Celestial Petal. I mean, the looks are exciting too, but I just love to be surprised at the shade. And Celestial Petal, ooh, that looks right up my alley, is this one here. The Terra Moon website says Celestial Petal is a pale pink with purple and blue shifts. The shadow is made with large particles of mica, making them very sparkly. It's best used applied with a glitter glue, blah blah blah. And yes, it is a sparkly finish. Here you have the swatch out of my hand, and I don't know if you can tell, but this is more translucent than anything. So this is definitely more an iridescent shade, and I do not expect a lot of like intense pigmentation on the eye. And you can also see here in the video the beautiful sparkle, and when I hold it up against one of the light panels, the pink shift is really coming through, while when I look at more what's facing my side here of the swatch, it's more bluish purple. What I really like about shades like this is that you can use them in so many different ways. One would be the classic way with eyeshadow as like a framing of this and then making it the center of attention, which I will do today. But for example, you could also do something that I lately have been really enjoying, and that is using something like that. This is the Izamaya sculpting stick, but this is the shade Ebony. So this is nearly black, or I would say this is black. And I just like to use this as a sheer base on the lid and then apply an eyeshadow on top, and maybe then go in with some sort of a blending shade in the crease. It's just very pretty. But I want to pair this with some eyeshadow, and I go into the Choiz Beauty Cold Butterfly palette. I reviewed this already, so this is, I think, the latest release from Choiz Beauty. And if you want to see it, I'll link the review down below. You can get this, of course, in Lookhealthystore and save 12% with my code ELLAGRAM. But I think this is a palette that fits very nice the different shifts from Celestial Petal. And I start with the mauve shade in the first row. And I take a long fluffy brush and apply this throughout the complete crease, and then also let it feather upwards. I then go into the purple in the second row, although this is more lilac than purple, and I apply this on the outer V area. And then I go into the light blue, and because the shade felt a little bit more squishy, I will right away try and use it with a silicone brush. So now pick up Celestial Petal and apply this all over the lid. You know, I need always a little bit of contrast, so I take the shade Outer Space from the ColourPop cream liners and line the waterline with that. And then I take that lilac-y shade and smudge the liner out all along the lower lash line. And with a pencil brush, I tap into the mauve shade from the beginning and smudge that slightly below for a super smoked out lower lash line. For the inner corner highlight, I will be using a glitter. I take the Space Case from Lemon Hat, the Space Case Mini, And I want to use something that matches with that whole vibe on the lid. So either the classic Houdini, it could also be Phantom, Happy Ending, Lady Mercury. They all are very fitting, but I think I take this one here. This is Lady Mercury. So I picked something up and now I just dab this on both inner corners. And here we have now the finished look on the lips, although you can't barely see these. I'm wearing the shade Pink Marshmallow from the Lawless Forget the Filler Bombs. This is a color that, I don't know, it just probably, it walked by the tint and it didn't really get something, but it's a nice balm. The look, I really enjoy, right up my alley. I love purples, I love pinky shifts, I love blue hues. I think this is just a really nice, cool toned, iridescent look that I really appreciate. And now moving on to look number 2. Let's spin the wheel for look number 2. We get the shade Hourglass Nebula. It's this pretty shade down here and I'm very excited. Ooh, they do not lie on the website. They say the finish is flaky, and it truly is. The TERRA Moon website describes Hourglass Nebula is an extreme multichrome eyeshadow. It has a berry base with shifts to blue, pink, silver and hints of green, and it has a textured finish. It's part of the Lunar Lux collection, and it's one of the few shades where you can't choose 2 different sizes. This is an eyeshadow that feels extremely creamy, oily, but not, I don't think it's as oily and flaky as the Onsai ones, but this is definitely something that I will apply also with a silicone brush. And I think here in the video, I was able to capture all of the shifts, especially when holding up my hand against one of the lighting panels that I have here. Then that pinky bluish base is really prominent. And one of the few times here, I actually see the different hints. So the green is definitely showing up, but I also see some gold, but also very nice glitter. So I'm quite excited to use this eyeshadow. And it reminds me a lot actually of MAC's Blue Brown, but in a lighter version. So blue brown light kind of. I had such a hard time choosing a corresponding eyeshadow palette because I didn't want to have something that overshadows this eyeshadow, but I also needed something to do an impactful matte frame for this look. So I went with a palette where I just know that it will be good, and I take my Viseart Petit Cool Matte palette. I think that is the way to go here. And I'm starting right away in the shade Elk, which is the black. And I apply this on my outer third on the complete lid and slightly blend it up into the crease too. I then tap into Bluebells next to it and start to blend this here in the crease on top of the black and bring it just a little bit towards the center. I now take Lupine and start to blend this in the center of the crease, bringing it inwards and outwards. And then I also tap into Seashell, and that one I use on the most inner crease part. So it looks like a super complicated blend here, but thanks to Viseart, that was actually quite easy. I now pick up Hourglass Nebula as said with a silicone brush. And that is now what I do. I take Hourglass Nebula and I apply this all over my lid with that silicone brush from Slayfire. And this time I also used the smaller one and not the super big one, because I feel like with this very flaky formula, it might be a little bit too messy to go in with the big one. Absolutely stunning. I have a brush here that I applied my glitter glue with. This is from Cleona. It doesn't have a number, but it is quite flat to pack on, but it is fluffy enough to do a little bit of blending. And that is what I actually do here in the crease. No additional product, I just go over the edges a little bit. For the liner, I will be using the Midnight Gray Cupid's Arrow from Nabla. It's a nice blue tinted gray, and I think that matches the look perfect. I then pick up Bluebells again and smudge that very, very close to the lash line. And some of the eyeshadow actually flaked down here on the lower lash line, which gives it a really cool effect here. So I take for the other eye the silicone brush and just smear it here on top of the shadow and do it on the other eye too. I like that. For the inner corner highlight, I take the Diamond Skin Glitter Palette from Slayfire Cosmetics. And I take the shade Glinda down here because it has some greeny, golden, orange shifts. I think this will catch that very intense green shift that I actually see here. Very, very nice. And it gives me exactly the effect I was looking for. More orange, more warmth, just to balance everything out a bit. And here you have now the finished look. On the lips, I'm wearing the Jake Lip Duo from the ColourPop New Moon collection that comes with the lip liner and Hello Biceps and the Jake Powder Pout lipstick. This is a very, very pretty eye look. The eyeshadow, the Hourglass Nebula shade is truly, truly special. And I cannot stress it enough how much of a difference it just makes when you apply shades like this with a silicone brush. Where have I been my whole life when I was complaining about these? Well, now I settled in, so now I have high hopes that shades that I used to avoid because they are too flaky for me, that I can make them work with the silicone brushes. But before that, let's move on to look number 3. And let's spin the wheel one last time for this video, and we get the shade Seraphina. Interesting, Seraphina is a matte. It's this one down here, and the TERRA Moon website says, let me pick up my phone, Seraphina is a deep purple gray matte, and I think this is a description that is definitely very much on point. And honestly, this is a shade that I can actually imagine a all over the lid look, maybe with some liner. Something easy I have in mind, actually. Okay, I try my best. I start with the Midnight Gray Cupid's Arrow from Nabla, and I line my upper waterline and the lash line with that. I then take a stiff smudger brush and smudge that out a little bit. I then take a bigger blending brush and go into Seraphina. And I apply this on top of that and of course on the lid and start to blend that. I'm building up the Seraphina shade quite intense. So I'm now at the third layer of it on the lid. And I just keep on softly blending to feather it out. I now take the shade Show Off from the Too Faced Disco Crushes on the same brush. Just slightly dab in, and I just dust it here on top of the lid. For the lower lash line, I go back to the Cupid's Arrow in Midnight Gray and line the waterline. And then I tap back into Seraphina, and you guessed it probably, I smudge it out. I picked a pencil brush, one that is a bit softer with a little bit of Seraphina, and I'm just diffusing it a little bit so it doesn't look so harsh. For inner corner highlight, I will be using a liquid eyeshadow. This is LH Cosmetics Blink. It has a transparent base and slight blue sparkly specks of glitter throughout. I think that is going to match that look quite well. So I pick up something here from the applicator, and then I carefully just dab it on, and I picked up a bit too much. So I wiped the brush clean here on my towel, and then I just keep on very, very softly blending out that liquid eyeshadow. And here we have now the third and finished look, and on the lips I'm wearing Charlotte Tilbury's iconic nude lip liner together with the new MAC lip gloss Air in the shade Behave. I was 100% sure that I will say that the last look, so the second one, was my favorite, but honestly, I love this. I love everything about this look, and to be honest, I think the slight layer of the show off shade from Too Faced wasn't even necessary. I think I could have done this look without the glitter, and just that super brightening reflective inner corner highlight would have been also an amazing look. But the whole combo is just, oh, I love this. The Seraphina shade, this is something I need in a lip color. If you know a brand, somebody who makes this as a lip color, maybe from C Beauty preferably actually, let me please know, because I want to have a shade like that also for the lips. Oh, and I just realized I had a little bit of makeup here. Let me know your thoughts, of course, down below. Which one was your favorite look? Also this one, or maybe another one. I'm always curious to hear your thoughts on this. Thank you so much for joining today. Make sure you subscribe to don't miss out any of the other upcoming videos, and I see you soon.